Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Afterparty, where we've got the past, we've got the present in a different setting, we've got a skill tree out of place. Folks, welcome to an unusually good Afterparty.
Well done. I feel like I just watched a fucking pro tennis player win the Wimbledon.
Yes.
Thank you, Brandon. I've done several hundred of these, so I should hope that I'm okay.
It was good. Off the cuff, off the dome. Great.
I need to see you do more moderating panels of high drama guests. I think that's really where this has led you. I need you to hold a bunch of tech entrepreneurs to task.
Thank you.
By pointing out that they're not answering the question that was posed.
I think Amanda should be the next Andy Cohen, and that's my hot take.
That's pretty
Julia,
good.
I think it's time for 6 gay men to make room for queer women, and I think it would just be the right thing to do for him to hand over all of these moderations and after parties to me.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Checks out.
I don't know what Andy Cohen does, but I agree.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to Real Housewives of New York. I'm Amanda.
And let's start with you, Laura from Below Deck. Do you take your job seriously, or are you here for television? Because I have lots of questions.
The answer is always they're here for television. Let's be honest.
That's fair. That's fair.
Amanda needs to ask if they're here for the right reasons. It's really important that she asks
Thank
each
you.
of them individually.
Oh, Amanda, if you were the after party host for the Bachelor franchise, that would make me so happy.
Jesse Palmer, get out of the way. Amanda McLoughlin, bisexual woman, needs to talk to all of these Bachelor and Bachelorette contestants.
Mm-hmm.
I will just say on the other end of the spectrum, not that I really believe in high culture and low culture, but I do keep my calendar free for Davos every year. So if they ever need someone to just get flown right in, someone who speaks a language of financial crimes/innovation, and who will give a little wink and a nod to the audience, I'm around. But folks, let's drill down on what it is that we're here to talk about. And it's, of course, first up, the Skill Tree 5, a skill tree away from home. I want to start with, Eric, how did you think about giving us a skill tree when we were not back at the hold? And did it feel like a tension at all, or a thing you needed to solve without kind of resetting our journey back to home base?
Yeah, all three of these episodes felt like I was figuring out what we were supposed to do next. I feel like I don't know what the numbers are going to bear out here, but emotionally, it felt like this is 2/3, 3/4 of the way through this campaign. Again, don't hold me to those numbers, but that's how it feels in my vibes. So I'm there's some stuff that needs to be resolved here to figure out what happens next, especially because I wanted Lustrious to do the JRPG, pointing you in different directions for what path you're going to take next. But I'm okay, I'm not going to send them back to the hold. That doesn't make any sense narratively. So it's use some extra stuff if you want to bring someone with you. But other than that, it's it is what it is. Because I feel like you could still, improve the ship if you wanted to, even if you couldn't go monster wrangling.
Right.
So that's how I felt about the skill tree, and then the other episodes kind of flowed from there. It's I really wanted to do the Diamond Knot. I've been kicking this around for all this year, I think. It's probably an after party where I said it somewhere. We can look in the transcripts and see where I suggested it at some point in one of the other after parties.
Definitely did, yeah.
And then, of course, Legend of the Past. I'm all right, we've done 2 of these. Let's do one more.
We have so much to talk about and so many really, really good plot questions coming from these episodes that I think on another podcast and under not the best GM in podcasting would have felt like a diversion. Instead, this was precious world building. But first, in the skill tree, we still had a lot happen. We found the key that still hurts. We bought it from Orello. And Brandon, I do just want to go ahead and acknowledge and hold space for the fact that for the 5th time, you were prevented from spending all of our amber on dig and roll.
I have a follow-up question in regards to that, which is if we had used dig and roll, would you have used the same table as the one for the hold, or did you come up with a new table for things that could have been found in the dissolving belt?
Eric, before you answer Julia, I do just need to have a quick moment of silence for my ambitions. Just put
Here lies Brandon's ambitions.
He never gets to do anything ever.
It's real young sibling energy.
I know.
But we never go to friendlies. Yeah.
What do you mean? We went to friendlies last weekend. What do you mean?
But not what I wanted right now.
You got 2 fribbles. You got one for now and later.
But no, Brandon, one day I Troy vow to my sub-captain Umbi that we will one day steal enough amber from dead bodies that we can fill out the entire dig and roll table.
This is unrelated, but I am editing the next episode, and you made me think of it because the sub-captain thing you just said. There's a part in the next episode where I was editing where someone was talking, probably me, and I didn't hear you in the moment, and I agreed with you. And then in the edit, I realized that you called yourself Captain Troy, and I was like, fuck!
Yeah.
Haunting you in post, that's the Amanda McLoughlin promise.
Just remember, Captain is French for best friend.
It is. All right, Eric, so how would it have worked if we wanted to spend that extra amber to import one of our choices to us?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was more the thought that, like, if you wanted Glory to show up or you wanted someone else from the hold to show up, that would have worked for there. If you had done Dig and Roll, I think I would have figured it out. I don't know how it would have shaken out. We didn't do it, so who can say? I think I would have made sure you could have gotten something. Maybe it would have been a little bit different. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, I'll figure a lot of figuring stuff out on the fly there.
Maybe it would have been like a underwater shipwreck that we, dug and swam and rolled into. I don't know. Who can say?
And maybe Umbi would have like fell into the water and then like slowly dissolved over time. It would have been great.
Sure.
Who knows?
Maybe he would have gotten pickled and lived forever. Have we considered that?
No, I didn't
Amanda.
consider that.
Considered pickling Umbi.
Have we
Amanda.
considered a 10% saline solution pickle?
We're all food and vegetable. This would work.
Right?
Elon Musk, have you considered a pickling solution?
Peter Thiel, stop injecting the blood of young men into your own blood and instead try vinegar. Just try it, get back to me.
Is there a branch of necromancy in Vertistello that are just picklers?
Oh, I'm sure.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I bet there is.
And they are also pickles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Incredible.
You are what you
Pickle.
I'm a little mad I didn't make the zombies pickles now, but,
It would have been a little on the nose.
No, in my mind, zombies as like rotting, mulching things, that makes sense.
Sure.
Vampires are pickles.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Displacing their blood. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also had a lot of tender moments with Lustrious Recompense in this episode. I felt so badly for him the way the episode opened. I was like, oh no, in my feelings about the most fabulous, incredible NPC we've ever had. Players, how did it feel to interact with Lustrious in the set?
Orello's right there, Amanda. Why would you say that?
Put them together, make them kias.
That's what we were trying to do.
That's what I was trying to do.
We're on opposite sides of the bell curve of strange NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
My reaction is, yeah.
Yeah.
Checks out for him.
Lustrious is an odd fellow that I enjoy interacting with. I do not want to spend any more time than I have to with Lustrious, though.
Yeah.
Fair.
Troy was very serious about inviting him onto the crew, and you guys shut that shit down real quick.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
I had a question from Shelby here, actually, Eric. So you mentioned the kind of mechanic you made for the skill tree of kind of like resolving our business and then going to the checkpoint or the menu point of Lustrious to move to our next challenge. And so Shelby said, referring to Lustrious's quest options, since the campaign is taking place in a JRPG setting, are the choices going to follow those rules? I.e., the choices will exist in this exact form, like no time has passed after the team does their Kid Cervantes quest.
No, it was more like that thing when you get to the end of a video game and it's like, hey, the saving point, the final saving point of this open world game is here. After that, things will change. So you better figure all your stuff out before you do this. But I did want it to be up to all of you what you wanted to do next. Like, obviously, Kid Cervantes was pretty tempting, and that's what he ended up doing. But, there was plenty of other stuff to do or pursue if you wanted to do something off the wall, something I didn't even think of. So it was more like that. I think it's really funny and interesting now that, like, so many games are, like, more open world or at least have the option of you, like, 100%ing it or going back and digging into worlds that you've already been to. And I think that I wanted to give you the same sort of latitude to take care of everything you wanted to here, because it was a skill tree episode, and a skill tree episode feels like pause.
A little out of time.
Yeah. Right? So it was more leading into that. But I appreciate that people know my references and are talking to me about it. That's fine by me.
So what I'm hearing is that players, Eric, don't listen to this. Players, if we screw up and make a mistake or all, have a TKO and just all die, we can just go back to the save point and we can restart at that point and then go forward. And
No,
Julia,
this is not a Souls-like. We can't do that.
No, we
Brandon,
can't do
you
that?
can't
Okay.
save scum your way through this Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I'm sorry.
But Eric, have we tried?
But have I asked?
considered?
Have I asked? Send Eric $5 on Venmo and see what happens.
I mean, Orello has certainly screwed us over before, but good God, am I glad we decided to take that deal and go ahead and actually buy the trunk. Was anyone here expecting a whole ass key to be in there?
Absolutely not.
I don't know. I can't remember what I was trying to think. Like, obviously, it was something important. I thought
Yeah.
it was the key, but like, I don't know. I wasn't surprised at that point that there was something like, major in that thing, just by the way that Orello was acting. Yeah, but
I was shocked. I thought it would be like plans, blueprints, a clue, a map, correspondence between people that matter, maybe more of those spores, which could have been a fun weapon to have against Radbert, that motherfucker. But instead, we have the key that still hurts. Honestly, I was hoping we get a chance to go back to that Venus flytrap cave ourselves. So, I was like 5% bummed, but 95% elated that we're up to 2 keys.
Yeah, it was wild to me that he just like found it on the beach. I was like, what? How? Where'd that come from?
I don't know why you want to go back to the cave that eats you, Amanda, but sure.
It's so fun!
It was
The
fun.
place where Amanda almost died. The
Yeah.
most Amanda's character has almost died. Even compared to Campaign 2, Amanda's almost died the most at the Venus Flytrap Cave.
It was so much fun.
Here's a question. How do you tell people, as someone who's not trustworthy, how do you tell people that the government's watching you? How do you do that? I'm not sure if there's a way to do it other than saying, it's happening, they're watching me, please help me, and then see what happens. I guess that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah, and then you seem like a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, exactly. There's no good way to say, I know for a fact the government's watching me.
Maybe you should re-examine your life choices, Orello.
I know. See, I've ruined Brandon to so much that there's absolutely no way Brandon would ever take any present from NPC because he thinks it will blow up in his face like a pen or like a can or like a chip can that's filled with snakes. Brandon's been playing with me for too long.
Orello did literally sell a weapon to our deepest enemy that came very close to killing Umbi, so...
Yeah. And you did, this wasn't a gift, but, you did kill Cammy's best friend with a regular-ass ball trap.
Yep.
Yeah, that did happen.
That happened. That happened.
Anything can happen these days, Eric.
The dice did that. Smelly Haze stepped on a low roll and then fell down those stairs. I don't know what to tell you.
we really we think a lot about the destruction of the stadium, but we don't think enough about Smelly Haze full time.
Yeah, apparently war criminal Smelly Haze, but we'll get to that.
We will.
Smelly Haze is in my thoughts every time I start a new session, Amanda.
Fair.
Same. I want to say same, and I finally got a chance to give that out. But no, I mean, like the thing that I was trying to get across during this campaign was like Orello, and this happens a lot. Orello has no allegiance to anyone. Orello sells to the highest bidder, and is a fun, goofy person, but like. That's how he functions, right? Like he's a merchant. He can't favor one person or another, or he wants everyone to think that they're favored, right? So it's like he is friendly with you, but is that going to stymie his other relationships with other people? No, he's gonna sell stuff to you, and he's gonna sell stuff to the Diamond Knot at the same time. So the fact that you guys bought the key from him was like, oh, I had to sell this. I can't give it to you, but if you sell it to me before I'm supposed to drop it off with the Diamond Knot, what am I supposed to do? Who knows? Who can say?
Orello name dropping the Better Business Bureau was the funniest part about that conversation.
I thought having an insurance agent in this campaign was the funniest and most mundane capitalistic reference, but no. Eric, I thought Lustrious is a really like beautiful and personable way to kind of drive home the point that under capitalism there are no true kind of like neutral power relationships and choice. So well done there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to do this a little bit more nuanced. capitalism has been used as the big bad in Dungeons and Dragons games since Brennan Lee Mulligan made it hot shit. And like, you've seen people do it well, you've seen people do it poorly, you've seen people do it pretty mid and just do it because it's the enemy du jour of our current landscape at the moment. So it's like, this is a fantasy story, so everything is a little bit metaphor, but it's more about like it's that mixed with power. Can people do things if they don't participate? I think the whole thing about Lustrious is that he thought he opted out of the whole rat race and now that's why he's doing this meeting in the first place. So it's like he's asking people who are actually doing this shit in the first place these really poignant questions, and who he's just this guy who's just he did his time and now he's out. Like, what is someone like Lustrious's role in making the world better? Does he have a role? Can he contribute in any sort of way? He certainly thinks he does, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit more complicated, but I think it's always interesting when someone random like that, someone you don't expect, asks central characters personal questions, which is, there's a real tie between that and Legends of the Past, too.
Absolutely. Now, we have so many excellent questions about modeling our nations and the diamond knot. So let's get into it, and then we'll get back to things with Legends of the Past at the end of this after party. So Eric, take us through. How did this generate? From my perspective, you said, "Hun, I'm going on a walk," and then an hour later gave me a call and said, "I wrote an RPG." What happened here? What happened here? And when can people buy it, Eric? That's what everyone's asking.
I am working on it. It is all written. It's going to be formatted and laid out, so sooner rather than later. You can buy it. We're going to clip this. It's going to be great. I want folks to be able to pick it up because I think it's a really good game, and I'm going to put it on, the Join the Party merch store and hopefully push it out to Itch and all the other places where people can buy stuff. I've been kicking this idea around in my head for a while. There are so many scenes where this kind of stuff pops up, I think, where like outside of the protagonists, the government goes and has a meeting somewhere. There's one particular episode of One Piece that I'm thinking about where the world government meets up, and then the greatest swordsman of all time just shows up there and like kind of crashes the party, which I really like. But I've been told that in other animes this happens. This is also relevant to the stuff that happened in the first Black Panther movie. Like when Black Panther is like talking to the leaders of all the different tribes, it's all, and then of course then they wrestle on the waterfall. I just thought it was tight as hell. So there's a lot of different times of this happening. Also, I am a Model UN kid. I love Model UN. I loved Model UN. The thing that you might not know about Model UN is that you can sign up for different it's not just like everyone talks generally and everyone is every single country. You can sign up for very specific panels. And one time I signed up for a panel where it was the Cold War and it was the Soviet Union versus the United States. And I was on the Soviet Union side. And it was so specific and cool. I think I commissioned a propaganda comic to go out at some point.
Hell yeah.
It's just like, it's so much fun. And it really ties hand in hand with the collaborative world building of like, either making a world from scratch or inserting this into your campaign to flesh something out. It just kind of was swirling around in my head, and then I just kind of put it together. It's like, oh, they should have moves, powered by the Apocalypse style moves. Let's make it winnable. Let's put some points on the board, which is something I thought would be motivating to kind of make this stand alone. And I went for a walk and I wrote it all. I sat down on a bench in McCarran Park and kind of wrote it all down, and then there it was. I mean, it's been gestating in my head, I feel like, for a while. So yeah. I'm very excited that it's going to be coming out and that we were able to run it in nearly a finished form on the show.
Is for young poor little Southerners like me, can you we definitely had like model government things, but I imagine Model UN might be something kind of specific. What do you do when you sit down at a Model UN?
Brandon, whenever you didn't have the same experience I did in high school, it's like you draw the Mason-Dixon line between the two of us. You're like boathouses, that's for JFK and Yankees. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, they are.
Yeah. Tell me I'm wrong, Eric.
I know, but I thought Model UN was a national thing. I thought it was differently.
We have like debate club, and maybe it's just my school that didn't have it. I don't know.
I think that's probably the case, Brandon.
It's an extension of, I think in certain places have debates, a speech and debate. We didn't do like the I've seen documentaries of like the big speech and debate tournaments that people go to, so we did this instead. They still had like meetups though. Like you went and you prepared to do like an action. It's almost like you guys talked about, like, oh, you need to know all this stuff about geopolitics, I think, and social politics all kind of interacted. And you, like, the history teacher was our advisor, so we were talking about this, and we mocked some stuff. And then you go to this convention. I remember I went to Bosmoon, which was Boston Model UN, and that's where I did the Soviet Union one. And then you did.
I was like, what country is that?
And then that's when you spend like a few months preparing for the thing you're going to do at the convention.
So, Brandon, you embody a country, which leads to very entertaining things, like my friend saying, I'm Antigua. And then you represent your country in a debate that, like Eric said, you plan for, arguing for like a policy change as if you're in the United Nations, but you're a bunch of 16-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
And you got to like learn how to tie a tie and stuff.
It's very important, the tie tying.
It is. That's why I know how to tie a tie. It's because I had to tie like 10 in a row for various times by myself at Bosmoon.
Incredible. I love Bosmoon, fictional country in the Middle East where spice comes from in Dune.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, Julia, how was preparing for, let's say first, how was the idea of modeling our nations? How do you feel about doing this episode?
I always feel like I'm really bad at debate and stuff like that. So I was trying so hard to really embody my character and sound as confident as possible in making my arguments. And I think like part of that came across in the final episode that came out. But I was also like, I could tell when I was wavering and not like speaking the way that I wanted to get my point across. So I was particularly self-conscious about this episode.
I think you did a really good job, and your character's perspective was so clear to me.
Yeah, politely, you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
No, you always come across as so confident, and I think your points are always well spoken and understood. So props to you for overcoming that self-consciousness that you feel.
I think I was just like, I was playing a character that I was like, this person would talk in full sentences and have completely fully formed ideas, and trying to get that to come across in a improvised setting was difficult for me.
Yeah, for sure. But I think you achieved it personally. But
thank you.
How'd you feel, Brandon?
yeah, I had a fucking blast. First of all, I love the game. I think it's so fun. I especially like the sort of one-pagers where you get to sort of play in the creative shared mind space, as opposed to like the one-pagers where you like roll a dice and do an action based on the dice. Like it's more on rails kind of thing. So I love the playing those that Eric makes like that. And yeah, I think obviously I had a blast playing Dr. Radish, and I got to be even more chaotic than I normally am. I think I also would have had fun playing someone, non-chaotic, right? Like someone like a Mufasa that Julia was playing.
Don't call him Mufasa.
I don't know his name. What's his name?
The constructor Emirate Heron.
Brandon, let's get a little deeper into this. Moss wants to know, at what point did you know you were going to be playing Dr. Radish?
I think pretty much immediately. So Eric put out a little message in Slack that was like, here are some characters, some possibilities of characters.
Suggested characters. And
one of them was Dr. Radish. 3
out of 4 of those characters were already on the document that Audrey showed up with. So I kind of had an idea of who was the Diamond Knot representatives. So, and like, their space in the government. And then I ended up switching mine. Originally I was thinking that like the Lord Commander who had trained Troy in the first Legend of the Past was going to be that representative, just to bring him back. But he's more fun as an NPC than actually playing him. So that's why I ended up playing Dez instead. Kind of like a Sir Davos sort of type, just a guy in over his head. Mm-hmm. Everyone likes him, and that's why he gets posts like this. The 3 of you were like, oh yes, I want to play these. These are some cool fucking guys.
Yeah.
100%. Full Amber Gundam wants to know, did you discuss various directions for the factions ahead of time? Or did Julia just pull Hot House setting up to betray/take over the other factions out of thin air? That was a motherfucking reveal. And Brandon and I were both like, God damn it. You knew, Brandon. I didn't suspect, but we didn't plan at all, apart from just deciding which of us would be which character from which nation.
I did ask Eric a couple of questions about Hothouse because it's one of the ones that we have explored the least. So I wanted to think about what the motivations behind those were, and I needed like a couple of information things that weren't revealed in the canon yet. So one of those things that Eric revealed to me that I ended up revealing in canon in this episode was the fact that Archie is traveling with the key with the gaze, for example.
Yeah.
Yes, Shelby wanted to know if that was shared with you, Julia, or if you kind of intuited it.
No, Eric specifically shared that with me because I wanted to specify something particularly, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then we also talked about like what the country goal was. And I really think that it was kind of like, okay, this is what I want them to do, but I don't think I really like revealed it, like in terms of like how insidious the actual plan was.
I mean, that's what I wanted to put in the game, like the whole thing, because again, imagine you're playing this without any of the countries set, right? You're like, okay, here's the world, it's a steampunk world and everyone is a fox. Like let's go from there, right? You need to say the qualities that your country cares about in order, because it belies the move you might have or the goal you're trying to pursue if someone intuits this. Now, you might be a little bit off and then you end up going all in on trying to stonewall someone. But again, like what Brandon did, but then or like what Dr. Radish Radish did, but Dr. Radish Radish was too busy being Dr. Radish Radish pursuing his own goal to convince anyone else to go along with that kind of stuff, which is why I really, really liked how it all shook out. It's like, I knew what you were talking about. It's almost like it's real foreshadowing of how someone might play this game.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out, I want to say, I come into these games where they're like, Brandon, why are you being so, hard on Julia? Why are you being so suspicious? Why are you trying to push Julia over the edge?
Why can't we go to friendlies?
Sly like a fox, motherfuckers.
No, you just knew that I have the shortest fuse and you could make me kill you in the game.
No, I knew exactly what you're gonna do, Julia, because you are a sneaky little sneak.
Famously.
Yeah, Brandon, I completely believe you. I saw it in your eyes in the recording as Julia was gearing up to make this reveal, and I was like, damn, I was playing checkers. I thought Julia was playing checkers. I know Brandon was playing checkers, and yet Brandon identified Julia was playing chess. There was a really interesting tension in this episode for me as a player, and I'm going to segue into it by way of a question from Ginger, who wanted to know, what was it like having to ally yourself with Lucky Edie? It was so funny listening to the Diamond Knot episode after having mainly disdain for her the entire campaign, and I was wondering what it was like. I also want to know, too, from my fellow players, how, I don't know, because like our competitiveness and what we want for our PCs was kind of at odds here. At the end of the episode, I think I said like, well, I'm sorry, I like won this thing that is gonna be bad for the pirates. So how did you approach that? Did you have in your minds at all that sort of succeeding as a Diamond Knot may in fact make life harder for our PCs in the main plot?
I actually really like how Ginger posed this question because in my mind, the members of the Diamond Knot are not like buddies with Edie. I think they also have disdain for Edie, who is a turncoat pirate that is working for them. Like Edie's not like high status, I don't think, within the Diamond Knot or anything. She's just kind of part of their plan to take over.
I was going to say that same thing with Orello, actually. Yeah, it's kind of very like a classic narrative for that person, that role of that character to be like, oh yeah, please help me out by buying this thing so I have an opportunity to, or I have an excuse when the real bad guy comes, and then they end up being killed or put in jail anyway, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll see with that. I agree with you, Julie. I think both Edie and Orello are like in for a rude awakening when they realize that they're just being used by the Diamond Knot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the thing in a spy movie, right? Is like when you acknowledge you are a double agent, even if you are pushed into it or you're very good at it, no one on either side will trust you ever again. Because even though I told you to be a double agent, people in the Diamond Knot, like, yeah, she's just an agent working for them. She's the best they have. It sucks. But I think it was hard as my character, as Dez, trying to do what King Hyperion wanted, which is like let's make sure Troy doesn't get sniped and killed is ultimately what he wanted. So I was, you try to win in your own way. And what's more important to you as a character? Being a good diplomat, doing what your government, the head of your government wants, you coming out looking all right. And I think that's how it all shook out in your various goals and stuff. Like, I was trying really hard to be everyone's friend and get those points so that I could win in that way. And like, what does winning mean? I guess like the point system is supposed to reflect effectiveness at this meeting, whatever that means.
I agree. I was going into this trying to play a lot of sides where, like, one, I think the game was fun because, yeah, Eric, to your point, you have goals that you gave us within the game itself. So that adds a third dimension to it. I will say that I was trying to do things that weren't going to fuck over our PCs in the future and would actually make it harder for the Diamond Knot.
Yeah.
I gave no thought to that at all. I wanted to win and be my character, and maybe that was only one-dimensional, but I wanted to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah, mine was definitely, I was like, what would this government actually want? And I just was looking at the conversation that Eric and I had, and I think I specifically said, Hothouse wants the opposite of right to repair. When I was like, yeah, I love that.
Hothouse is Apple right now, folks.
Yeah,
100%.
Hothouse is going to put out the thinnest telescopes.
And Eric, all new chords.
All
All new chords every time.
New chords, new
If
new
Apple
ports.
had one of those like business towns, like the old oil barons and stuff,
Oh, they're
used to have,
trying.
it
Yeah.
would be Hothouse,
100%.
That's so
Isn't that San Bernardino? I think that already
Yeah.
is. The funny thing about this game, which I really liked about it, and I think is why I felt ambiguous about fighting against me and letting Hothouse do what they wanted. There was a lot of stuff that I don't know if it's even going to affect the pirates. Like this whole thing with Hothouse having Apple stores throughout Vernastello now. Like, who cares? I don't think it's going to come up with the campaign. It sure is bad for everyone else, though. Which was wild. And I thought it was also, that was so much fun when we were when we all spoke at the same time as the
Council of Open Fields, right?
Yeah, that was so fun. So it's like
was
embodying all those things it was just really, really neat.
I loved the robot effect that Brandon put on the current builder as well. That was very fun.
Yeah.
That was a Eric Silver-esque.
You'll love to hear it.
Well, then he should say, it's like, what if the Pope was also RoboCop?
Hey, Eric, what if the Pope was also RoboCop?
He's got a Pope mobile.
Pretty cool.
Is that what the two popes is about? The one that Anthony Hopkins was
Yes,
in?
What
That's what it's about?
the hot Pope is about? That
It's
HBO
also
show
about the
with Jude
hot,
Law?
the young Pope, yeah. Jude Law
No, I think
is
it's
the
the hot
RoboCop.
It's definitely the hot Pope.
It didn't even occur to me that wasn't the title. I'm like, yeah, it's called the Hot Pope.
Hot Pope. Hot Pope.
Yeah.
Speaking of hotties, Ginger wants to know, is Troy just a legendary hottie himbo that people frequently hear of? Would any of the members of the Diamond Knot be temporarily stunned at seeing them in all their glory? They said it with seriousness, I guess, but is Troy a legitimate threat to them? Are we all only safe because Troy doesn't want to use his powers, whatever they might be, for evil? My take on this was just that the Crags representative was, carrying out Hyperion's wishes, like you're saying, Eric, that Hyperion just wants his brother, home safe, but also contained and not potentially, embarrassing the Breakstones or the Crags out on the open seas. Not that Troy is, some, loose cannon that could, cause huge damage.
Yeah, I just pulled up the transcript because I wanted to read what Eric and I said after that, where you were like, does he have reflective or deflective armor? What's going on? And Eric said, no, Prince Troides is quite attractive. It's well known. Well, internationally known. And then I said, they say he's a real hot himbo.
I mean, this is a thing that comes up a lot. I know in United States politics, this comes up a lot in British politics, especially with the royal family and everything. But cousins and siblings of royals and presidents and senators and stuff are always doing weird stuff. And everyone's extra fascinated with them because they're related to folks. I mean, weren't we all obsessed with Pippa Middleton there for a while? Remember?
We sure were.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that. I mean, the fact that Troy is a PC certainly contributes to all of this, and Troy being a hottie has been a thing over the whole campaign. But I think that the only reason we're talking about Troy in the first place at the Diamond Knot is because Hyperion cares and has to figure it out. And everyone's like, oh yes, your weird brother who's a pirate now. We all know. We all got a dossier.
Mm-hmm.
We all have dossiers on him, of course.
Yeah.
Couple more questions here on the Diamond Knot before we go ahead and refill that crudité. Lucy the Scoot wants to know, will we ever get to see that epic duel between Dr. Radish Radish and Archie?
It's up to Eric, I think.
Never. It's hilarious. Dr. Radish died.
Off screen, no less.
Here's the thing about that duel. It's like, obviously, Dr. Radish wanted to die. So,
Yep.
Obviously.
it's sort of like very big spoilers for Star Wars Rebels, but that scene where Maul and Obi-Wan fight, where it's like there's like one hit KO kind of situation. It wouldn't be fun to see. It's like 2 seconds and Radish just dies.
It would be sad.
What's really funny about this, and obviously Brandon, the character, is doing this, but like the whole point of that win condition of hagiography is that someone is so rambunctious as a person is that somehow through cosmic features and the way that people bump into each other, then we remember them so much better than they actually were as a person. So it's like Dr. Radish has wound himself up as being a legend, even though Archimedes just like struck him down super easy. It's like, when before Hamilton, I think whenever you heard about Hamilton and Aaron Burr's duel, you're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? What do you mean
the vice president killed a guy?
What are you talking about? So it's like Brandon winning the win condition was more like trying to pull the character in an interesting direction. And then now Dr. Radish has Radished himself. Maybe it flashed across his head saying, oh, I should die in an epic way because I'm an epic dude. But even,
Respect.
It's the way that tabletop RPGs like combined narrative, gameplay, and intention in various proportions for that cake you're baking.
Well, I have 2 quick things I need to reveal. One that Eric doesn't know, and one that Eric does know.
Okay.
The first thing that Eric doesn't realize is that I had the same move. I had chosen the same move that you had, Eric, which was the nickname one. And you spoke first. You just happened to speak first in the meeting here. And I immediately realized that you chose the nickname move. And I was like, shit, let me quickly just grab another move. So the entire reason that Dr. Radish died was because I had to grab another move really quickly to make sure it was still fun.
Oh, you changed your personal goal at the last second?
Yeah, because I wanted to have something different. Yeah.
That's very funny.
And then 2, I tied myself into diamond knots at the very end of this episode to make sure, to make sure that Dr. Radish died for my personal goal to achieve that. But also I didn't want to ruin the canon of the story. So what we ended up cutting at the end, but what we did originally
cut that.
was I made a convoluted plot to make sure that version of Dr. Radish died, but there was still a Dr. Radish later in the game. And then Eric was like, at the end, he was like, he can just die, it's fine.
It's fine. We can just kill him.
It's fully okay.
It was some real comics nonsense.
Yeah, Brandon was like, he starts a school, and then whoever is in charge of the school is the Dr. Radish. And I'm like,
yes.
What's happening? What are you talking about?
I think it's funnier that he died. I mean, Dr. Radish has always just been like a guy. You're allowed to kill someone off if we just met them in the same episode. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not losing it. It's not like you killed someone who I was controlling as an NPC for 10 episodes.
Right.
Like, it's fine. He still gets to live on in these pamphlets that he's been writing.
Eric, I think it's really important that we all take away from this episode that if you post enough, you can never die. That's what someone as prolific as Dr. Radish has to teach us.
Fair. Yeah.
Shout out Thomas Paine.
I also, I want to say, it is a little sad to me that we'll never get the reveal that Umbi was, in fact, Dr. Radish this whole time. I'm a little sad about it.
Well, Julia, someone could have taken up his mantle and continued publishing under his name after his death, like Dear Abby.
Umbi could have been Dr. Radish's ghostwriter this whole time. We don't know.
Maybe he died, Julia, but maybe he was pickled, and so he didn't die.
Oh, he's a vampire now. Right.
Yeah.
He lives on. Speaking of pickles, I'm going to add some to our crudité plate right here. Everyone cool with fried cornichon? We like this?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
please.
Oh, yeah.
Tight. All right, I'll be right back. Hello, everybody. It's Amanda, and welcome to the Midroll, where we would like to welcome, first and foremost, our newest patrons. There's Only Soup, Maddie White, who is an annual patron. Thank you so much, Maddie. And Harley. We are only able to make this show because of your support on Patreon. There is ads, there's merch, there's live shows. We do all those things for a little bit of money and or a lot of fun. But the backbone of our show, the backbone of our business is your support on Patreon. You who believe in us enough to say, we want you to put an incredible amount of time into the show and make it fun. And hey, we love doing it. So if you want to join, if you have at least $5 a month to spend on Join the Party, or if you are like, hey, I have $40 I wasn't planning on, $50 I wasn't planning on having, let me buy myself a year of Join the Party Patreon support. You will not only get the patron-only Discord, you'll not only get additional bi-weekly podcast episodes in party planning, you'll also get access to the hundreds, yes, I mean it, hundreds of bonus posts we have made for previous campaigns. All 2.5 of our previous campaigns. It's amazing. All of that is at patreon.com/jointhepartypod. This week at Multitude, I have been enjoying the hell out of Exolore, Dr. Moya McTeer's world-building show. This is where she goes through worlds that have already been built, interviews professional world builders, and builds brand new worlds of her own with a panel of expert guests. She's closing in on 100 episodes, and each of those episodes explores a minimum of one fantasy world. If you listen to this show, if you run your own campaigns, if you like sci-fi, if you like fantasy, if you like anime, you are going to be obsessed with Exolore and Dr. McTeer, if you're not already. So go ahead and look up Exolore in your podcast app or go to exolorepod.com. We are sponsored this week by Volante Design. If you are looking to upgrade your outerwear, if you're looking to invest in like one incredible belt or pair of pants or bag that every time you wear it, you are going to be like, holy shit, I feel unstoppable, Volante Design is the place, my friends. They have both officially licensed apparel from series like Assassin's Creed, Devil May Cry, and Star Trek, and tons of original collections that are like cyberpunky or modern ninja-y, or just all kinds of incredible stuff. Seriously, scroll their Instagram, scroll their website. It is going to make you drool. It's so good. I've actually seen a few Volante Design pieces that I recognize in person at cons and at like game stores and stuff. Place you'd expect people to wear like a vaguely Star Trek inspired coat, and every time I am like, ooh, stunning. Who is that? Oh, it's Volante Design. So they were kind enough to make a 10% discount code. They don't often do discount codes, folks. This really is just for us and just for Join the Party. So if you want to go to volantedesign.us and use the code Join the Party, you will get 10% off your entire order. For a like sustainably made small business like Volante Design, that's a big deal, and we are super appreciative that they're extending that to our audience. So go to volantedesign.us and use code Join the Party for 10% off your order. And finally, we are sponsored by Shaker and Spoon, a subscription cocktail service that helps you learn how to make handcrafted cocktails right at home. Now, I have a problem, which is that I have made enough Shaker and Spoon boxes and learned techniques like egg white frothing and fat washing of glasses and grating of real spices and like combining syrups and stuff, that when I go to a place that has a super uninspired cocktail for like $25, I'm like, could have gotten half a Shaker and Spoon box and made 6 cocktails for this cost. Seriously, it's kind of a problem because I love upping my home mixology game with Shaker and Spoon. I love giving it to friends. I love bringing it on road trips or as a house guest and saying like, hey, do you have a bottle of tequila? Do you have a bottle of whiskey? We have everything we need here to make 3 different kinds of custom craft cocktails and 4 drinks of each. So that's 12 drinks with 1 Shaker and Spoon box and 1 bottle of spirits. So check them out. They are wonderful. They make a great gift. They make a great gift for yourself. You can get subscription boxes. You can get one-off boxes. You can shop their collection of barware. I got my sister a bunch of beautiful copper barware when she moved away from home for the first time, and it has stood the test of time. They are great folks, a local small business here in Brooklyn, and they have a code to get you $20 off your first box. That's less than that crappy cocktail I had yesterday. Guys, there was like more simple syrup than tequila in this margarita. What are we doing? Anyway, go to shakerandspoon.com/join the party and you will get $20 off your first box of Shaker and Spoon. shakerandspoon.com/join the party. Now, back to the after party. Alrighty, folks, I am back. Here's a hot, fresh batch of fried cornichon. Oh, so good.
Oops, I ate them all.
Oh,
No, I
Brandon.
wanted them.
Oh,
I want some.
Oops.
Before we move on to the next section, would you guys all play Model? I'm still figuring out what the title of the game is. I think it's just going to be Model Our Nations. If you would you like to all play Model Our Nations and maybe buy it if it was released as a PDF and stuff?
I would. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, my wife. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, let's talk about Legends of the Past 2. I love that we get to, not that we get to separate, because I feel a little lonesome waiting, but I do love that I get to hear Join the Party as if for the first time when listening to the episode draft. So, Julia, Brandon, what were your impressions of hearing one another's segments?
I'll be honest, really loved Troy's section. It was very cute. It was very sweet. And I just love the idea of like, I also thought like halfway through Troy's session when they were like, oh, don't leave. I'm like, are they going to try to kill Troy? Are they going to try to assassinate Troy in the shop? And it was just like, no, I want to do business with some royalty. That's fine. But I really liked Troy's like, what if we made a potion that was like a brotherhood potion? I was like, that's so Troy coded. I can't even.
Well, I'm curious to hear, because my whole thought was like, I want to get into Eric's brain. So I'm curious to hear and excited to hear what Eric is thinking from the NPC side of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
What up, Eric? Tell us your thought process.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I thought that Lustrious asking you all what you would do with your wish was kind of interesting, a good jumping off point to make you all reflective, because I'd really try to carve out some reflective times for each of your PCs, something we've been doing all the way back from Camp-Paign 1. And I think the Legends of the Past episodes have been a good way to kind of reflect growth of characters over time, especially both for you three to think about your PCs and also playing earlier versions of your PCs before any of the stuff has happened to them. So this was really interesting. I wanted all the NPCs you had conversations with to ask you a probing question about yourself that you had to reflect on. And, some of them were friendly, some of them were not so friendly, and some of them you had and for Troy's sake, you had a weird power imbalance. So I really wanted to see how you would deal with that.
Yeah, Eric, that didn't resonate for me at all as somebody who is kind of nominally the employer of their spouse and friends.
But no, I wanted to give each of you a weird situation. I think that Umbi has been on like the most strange and winding journey. So it's almost like Umbi's the weird one walking into this bar with a regular person. And it's like, who do you call when something weird goes on? Well, it's probably the government representative who dropped out and was disaffected and now goes around like a witcher. We've talked about that a little bit from, in the open fields, I think. And I like the idea that Umbi was doing that because weird stuff I'm sure happens in Overstock all the time. But there isn't sort of this like hedge knight Witcher sellsword vibe thing going on. So Umbi has to go and do that himself. And then you're like, let's go talk to this bartender who's like, there's Umbi taking care of the plague of dancing that's happening outside.
The dancing plague.
I was so like, there was like an improv standoff moment where you were like, where I was trying to like figure out where you were going.
Sure.
And then also, and then also, like, because I walked into the bar and you were like, yeah, shit's going down outside. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I was trying
to
get
exactly
to it.
what
I was
you
trying
need.
to tell you what it was, and you were just like, absolutely, give me a drink. So I was trying to give you the exposition in a casual way, but it took a few back and forths of the dialogue tree to get there.
Because at one point I was like, yeah, today's a special day. You tell me what that is, Eric.
What's the special day? Yeah.
Does our new shorthand of yes banana mean that there's some kind of equivalent to like dropping a banana peel for others or slipping on the banana peel? Is it just like a known and accepted side effect of having a yes banana player?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to. The whole thing with that was that I didn't want to drop too much exposition on you super fast, Brandon. I felt I didn't want to control, because like I didn't want to like super control the situation. It's like I had to build the exposition in reverse as opposed to Troy and Cammie's situation.
Right.
But I just thought it was, because it almost didn't matter what was happening. It was more like the situation was Umbi is Batmaning around, and it could be anything's happening outside. Like, it doesn't matter. I know the answer because it would be rude for me not to know the answer. But it was like, almost didn't matter what was happening. I more just wanted to show that Umbi comes and investigates weird stuff. Like Hellboy.
Right.
Instead of a cell sword, is he a buy bomb?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Sure.
Hell yeah.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks.
And then with Cammy's, I had to flip this at the last second. I was wondering if Cammy, and I should have thought of this, but I was like, oh yeah, Cammy probably like studied with Baba Rutabaga for a little while and just hung out there and like had to do like stupid witch stuff. But then and then Julia was like, no. And I'm like, okay. So
I'm sorry I knowed you right at the top. I wasn't sure if that was what you were going for or not.
I mean, it all worked out. I think that you having to do, apprentice stuff for Smelly Haze worked, and it worked anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's worked in both ways. I mean, Smelly Haze and Baba Rutabaga are similar, that like people have really negative connotations of them regardless of what they're actually doing. So it's like,
Right.
Did Smelly Haze do all that stuff? Doesn't really matter. Lots of people think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was how I felt about that, and that's why you needed to like, I don't have the information, but you're a weirdo and I'm not letting you into this fort. I'm just not.
Yeah. I really liked the character of Marley. I hope that we see them again, assuming that they're still alive in this very dangerous world that we live in, but I really thought that they were kind of cool.
Did you, Eric, that I influenced, did I worm
Oh,
into
100%.
your brain?
Yeah. I did it intentionally because I wanted to do it. We ended up recording in one after another in the sequence, so I'm like, it'd be funny if I was doing that reference.
Julia, Shelby wanted to know, is Marley the violet bundle actually in a vase? Does this function like an iron lung situation, like being in a pot would mean?
I don't know, Eric. What do you think?
I like that because, I've already talked about how Audrey is a very interesting person for being in a pot, so it could be equivalent. We've talked about bundles of stuff before. I think in the last Legend of the Past, the shopkeeper that Umbi talked to on his like pilgrimage to the Senate was also a bundle of something, and I just think it's fun. I just kind of like doing the different types of characters instead of this humanoid is also a vegetable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it.
Pretty good
I'm into
stuff.
it.
Marley, Cammy, what did you think about well, I guess I want to ask all of you about how you felt about the NPCs who you were introduced to. So like what Brandon, how did you feel about the Barley bartender, and Julia, how did you feel about the whole vibe coming off of Marley the Violet Sellsword?
I mean, I thought the bartender was cool. I liked him. I think listening back, like they were much less of an antagonist, for lack of a better word, than the other two folks were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marley, like in the moment, I think Cammy was like very confused by who Marley was as a person. And by the end of it, especially when the reveal was like, I'm also 15, I was like, that's really sweet. And like in another universe, maybe like Cammy would have gone off with Marley or something like that. Like, especially re-listening to it to do the transcript, I was like, I could have seen like a budgeting romance here or something like that,
Sure.
like in another lifetime. But because Cammy, I guess, did not realize how bloodthirsty Smelly Haze was, I think that it just didn't go the way that it could have.
Yeah. And then oh my god, and then Troy talking to the potion seller with all their kids was so much fun. So funny.
Oh my God, terrible guilt. Troy for the first time is like, is it bad that I have and others have not? Like it really, he really like, whoa, people live very differently.
Yeah.
Did he feel that? Because I feel like in the moment he was sort of like, I guess the question when I was listening was like, has Troy always been the sort of just give shit away, like overpay for everything, tip generously, or was that like the moment when he realized that he should be doing that?
So I got a couple questions along this line too. Ginger was asking like, can Troy really just be a guard? Like, is he doing PR? Is he doing something more for the Breakstones? And Mage was like, what was Troy's role before the coup? Like, did he really just get into the guards after the coup, or was he a plant? Maybe he can't really like, and no pun intended. That's what Mage said. Like, I don't think he could necessarily pull off being a plant, but like maybe he was. And so I think my view on the matter is, I think Troy truly was like, because he's not too old either. He's, 19-ish. And so I think he, lived his life before the coup that put the Breakstones in power, not doing very much except for, schooling and training and, knowing that he was the one that was going to be a guard, allowed to just like do physical, training and kind of like be with his bruvs. And then upon the coup being successful, old guards slaughtered, new guards put in, and Troy is like, Roman Roy going through the training program at Waystar Royco to like work his way up and say he went to basic training and like see the guards to ultimately be like the head of the King's Guard. And so my view is like this is probably one of the first times that he has interacted with citizens or subjects as a part of the ruling family, because I imagine this was like one of his first kind of weekend off time jaunts down to the village.
Yeah, I really wanted to insert that scene in almost every single like fantasy story with a royal where they go down to the village and have an interaction. It's like, and it was kind of funny doing it in like episode 40 something instead of it being episode 1, right? You see that in Game of Thrones. They emulated that on Dimension 20, and I kind of wanted to do it in reverse. I kind of knew you were going to overpay. That is like such the thing. The term noblesse oblige, where it's like, it's the idea that people in high society, whether in fantasy times or now, have a responsibility to do benevolent stuff, like overpay for things. So it's like Troy was definitely going to do that. I knew you were going to do that, and I had written down this potion seller is self-conscious, does not want charity. Yeah. And I think the fact that you had to push the issue, and that their kids were jumping around and everything, it turned into like more of an awkward situation, which I knew was exactly what I wanted to happen. So it was like Troy recognizing if just being a bruv walking around the town is enough of a life, which I guess is kind of what I see, because like Troy has the shortest amount of time between these episodes and what happens in the current campaign. So I kind of wanted to make that one a little bit more explicit.
Totally. Yeah. In my mind, this is like 12 months before he goes to become a pirate.
Oh, 100%. Maybe even before like the previous, maybe even before the previous
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, for all three of yours, I wanted you guys to be in opposition to a character who was both similar but very different to you. Someone who you can get along with but has a very different life experience. I mean, obviously, this is very obvious for Troy. You're talking to a regular person while you're a royal, but you're living in the same world. For Cammy, Marley and Cammy are both being 15 and feeling like they have to do something, but in very different situations for that. And I mean, for Umbi and the bartender, it's like you're both on the same side, but the bartender is rooted in place at the bar, and Umbi's going along doing this thing, even though he looks like a weirdo. Which was the whole. So it was like this person who with a very different life experience is asking a probing question of you. And do you even know why you do the things that you do? Probably not. I think for all three of you, even I know that is like Cammy's 15, Troy is a himbo, and Umbi is figuring it out. None of you know the answer. So that's why I wanted to ask you the question before what's happening in this campaign, before we really start to hit the, really climb to the climax of what's happening here.
Absolutely. And Eric, that's a great segue into a question from Mage. It really feels like you're setting things up to kick off the end game of the campaign. Maybe not this arc, but relatively soon, unless there's another plot twist. How much fun are you having, giggling or cackling behind the scenes?
I mean, you'll see with the next few episodes, yeah? You'll see. You'll see. But it was nice. This felt like a little stop off. I wanted to, like, especially after the tour, I wanted to almost, I don't want to call it treading water because that's not fair to the good work that we've done, but it's almost like I didn't want to move forward. I wanted to explore the space we were currently in and flesh things out.
100%. All right, folks, how do we feel about a handful of great gaming character questions before we spoil that plank?
Let's do it.
Yar.
Michelle Spurgeon, the question surgeon, would like to know, of all the characters in Vertistello, who would you like to see more of?
Oh, that's such a tough question. There's so many good characters.
I would like to see more of Kristen's little character, the jumping spider. Oh. What was their name?
Lucas.
What a sweetie.
I want to see more of Tessie the Storm. Just that little pop through the portal during the fight was not enough.
I'm a big fan of Archie, so I want to see more Archimedes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the whole crew from that one shot. I want to see more of that insurance, the insurance company from Blue Lotus, just everything. I wanted to live in that one shot so much more.
I mean, listen, I think it may come up.
Salix for sure. I want to see more of. And
Well, he's dead now, so
yeah, you're right.
Killed
He's
him,
dead,
Eric.
and he'll never come back. And I mean, I spent so long incubating Audrey. I so much growing that sprout that I want to see what happens next with her.
Took like 45 episodes for that sprout to emerge, and you're going to nurse it all the way to full growth.
and then we immediately destroyed it.
Mage Silverleaf asks, Juliet, when did Nani go from primarily taking the form of a ginkgo crab to primarily seaweed octopus? And was there anything in between?
Okay, yes. I saw this question, so I prepared an answer for it because I got really excited.
Let's do it.
As we established in the first Legends of the Past, Nani was originally a dandelion bumblebee that manifested when Cammy went through her trauma. I think in between the dandelion bumblebee and the ginkgo crab. So I'm like, I kind of break them down by like parts of Cammy's life. So like origin was the dandelion bumblebee. And then at the tavern, I think it was still like kind of small, kind of like fragile. So it was a dahlia spider.
Ooh.
And then joining Smelly Haze's crew adapted to a smelly form of the ginkgo crab. After leaving Smelly Haze's crew, I think, and just kind of like traveling, like not yet at the hold, a pineapple toad.
Oh my god.
I like a pineapple toad.
Like very round, like spiny toad, but also pineapple.
So fat.
This whole time, Julia, I've been like, damn, I never heard of these species. And then I realized it's in the Vertistello Venn diagram.
Yes, of course, of course. And then finally, once Cammy settled at the hold, seaweed octopus.
Love it.
Real.
Love it.
I love you. That's such a witch's familiar is for you to have a fat toad.
Yeah,
hanging out with
very
you.
classic.
That's awesome.
100%. Moss wants to know, who is currently trying to stage a coup to remove Hyperion and the Breakstones from power? Is Eric rolling or something to decide how long he remains the ruler?
Yeah, it's like Umbi where you have to D100 it to see if he dies in his sleep or not.
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
That's a good question. I'm sure it's happening a lot. My idea is that the Breakstones have so many siblings, which everyone does, but the Breakstones sure have a lot of them. So, sorry, the NPC I want to hear more about is Troy's little sister who's bloodthirsty. I want to hear more about her.
Isn't she like she's a plant inside of the resistance movement, right?
Oh, yeah. That was so funny. I love that. I feel like there's so many Breakstone children that you'd have to kill a lot of them to make it all happen, like really red wedding it up. But so, and I think that in the time after the coup, the most recent coup, it takes some time. So we'll see.
We'll see. Moss also very importantly wants to know, what is each character's favorite Pokemon? And then say something nice about yourself. Julia, you're first.
About myself or about Cammy?
About you.
I think Cammy's favorite Pokemon. Is it too much of a cop out to do the like ghost teacup?
No, it's just
Dynasty?
on brand.
No.
It's just on brand.
Okay, so it's that one, or it's a Joltik. I think it's between those two. I could really see Cammy like fucking around with the Joltik.
With a little
Joltik
electric,
is basically Lucas.
a little electric spider. I love that.
So cute.
Love him.
And then something nice about myself. I just had therapy, so I can do this. I was a brave girl, and I went out and was very social for 4 straight days. So
Nice. Good job.
It's impressive.
mm-hmm.
Eric, your turn. NPC of your choice.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
How about Audrey? What's Audrey's vibe? What can I discern about Audrey as an enemy from her favorite Pokemon?
Oh, I mean, Audrey is a ghost type trainer, right?
Mhm,
And like all the ghosts are weird. I think having a Trevenant makes a lot of sense. Ghost plant for sure.
Or I feel like she'd think a Frostlass is dope.
Yeah, of course.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
mean, the ghosts are all just like cool yokai weirdos. So obviously, Audrey is a ghost type trainer. Yeah.
Saying something nice about yourself.
I did a really good job trimming my beard lately, so I'm feeling really good about it.
Ooh.
Nice.
Nice. Brandon.
I'm having a hard time picking a Pokemon.
For the
I
Brandon,
feel like,
may I suggest?
yeah.
Victory Bell. Umbi shaped and stinky.
I was thinking like something grass poison, like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of my first thoughts was Victory Bell, so I'll just go with Victory Bell.
I could also picture Chatot because that's the like parrot Pokemon and it reminds me
yeah.
of Bartlett.
That's a good one. Oh, or Squawkabilly, the one with the weird pompadour.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
There's also Toucannon that has a nose. That's a cannon. And a bird.
Mhm.
Squawkabilly.
Man, I didn't know any of these guys.
They're older dudes. Yeah.
I like Squawk Cannon or Toucannon. That's
Mm.
fun.
Toucannon is classy. I feel like that's very Umbi coded.
It's like Toucan Sam, but nose is gun.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Very important.
And then pass.
No.
No.
Say something nice about yourself.
I don't know, man.
Brandon, you just built so many guitars.
I was gonna say I did a good job with this guy behind me. this guitar.
Yeah.
Brandon builds guitars, guys. He like buys all the separate parts and builds them, or like takes an old janky one and makes it beautiful. It's like such an impressive skill.
Yeah, I don't carve the wood. I'm not that good at woodworking yet, but beyond that.
Listen, give the man a workshop, he'll get there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think Troy's favorite Pokemon, he saw a Butterfree one time, said cousin, and then stopped thinking. So I think that's the
Yeah.
the move.
No notes. No notes.
And you know
That's
what,
a
guys?
Troy Riptide.
I think I'd be really good at Andy Cohen's job. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. I think that would be great.
Girl, I agree.
I agree.
And our final question today comes in from a young pilgrim. Did you plan on the campaigns and characters of Join the Party being so wholesome? Or are you all just wholesome? I feel like players always want to dive into the outrageous, and I don't know if you guys suppress murder hobo inclinations or if you're genuinely sweet. Also, love the diamond knot.
I could talk about this for such a long time because I think you're identifying something that's like a big happening in Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs blowing up so much over the last 6, 7, 8 years, especially as it's related to content creation, not only just actual plays, but like D&D memes and how the memes and the TikToks of it reinforce like the worst interactions between DMs and players. It's like you can imagine on the content someone's making. It's like there's a scale from wholesome to unhinged
Destructive.
and chaotic,
Yeah.
and like that you're feeding the beast in the various ways that you do. But I think that there's something about like content creation and improv, like the improv people who are a part of actual play are on the chaotic side, whether because they're farming content or like that is the UCB has branded it on you, so you have to do that.
Well, they're also all so good at like taking whatever is lobbed at them and like volleying it back, right? Like us civilians like don't have that. I would freak out. I'd melt down.
But I think that there's something else that I think is less prominent but has been around in actual play, and what I get inspired by, and I learned this from friends at the table, is like from people who aren't necessarily actors. There are a lot of people who come in and know story and talk about story and make things in the way that they want to make it because they want to see the game reveals storytelling to you. And I think that might be more wholesome from the way that like you're allowed to cultivate emotional situations that aren't just like straight up crying or yelling, developing relationships and complex relationships and friendships in this way, and like moments for introspection and quiet because you're not busy trying to get to the dick joke as fast as possible.
Eric, Christian the Just Okay points out you did say jack off a lot of times in the most previous.
I
couple
must
episodes.
yeah, I must have. Sorry, oops. I don't remember what I say when I do it. So I think that's always been our strength, and when we started the show so long ago is like that was just what we wanted to do, and now I think it's almost codified itself into a type of genre sort of thing. So I'm glad you identified it. I think that this is like the beginning of some really interesting capital C criticism of the actual play and Dungeons & Dragons / tabletop RPG space, digital space, which I think is very interesting and stuff I think about all the time.
Yeah, I also feel really tenderly toward the world and our characters. We put a ton of effort into it. When Eric introduces an NPC, like maybe he just thought of it, but I don't want to, slash and burn them right away. And Brandon and Julia and me, like I feel like we take it so seriously. The sort of like the mission of the story, people being invested in our characters and the journeys that we take, and kind of like noping out of something or, casting it aside. While I totally get it, that can be done if that's what the whole party is there for, and that can be a ton of fun. That just feels like not my vibe. I want to like immerse ourselves in this world for a year and a half, and then, like cast it off gently.
Yeah, I mean, we've also had like, what, God, 7, 5, 6 years, something like that. 5, 6 years. Of
7, buddy. 7.
7, Jesus Christ, of telling each other what kind of game we want to play. So we've refined how we like to be at the table with each other. Whether or not that's like each person's individual, personal, 100% selfish preference, I don't know. But we've come to a great place where we all like to sit down and play at the same table, you know?
Yeah, and I welcome you into that because I think that you also feel ownership over the world as well because of the shared world building we do, which is the whole thing that we're doing. So it's like we're engendering this wholesomeness that you're seeing for sure.
I don't know, Julia, does spending like much of your professional life in a world as chaotic as the world outside sound fun? I like this one.
I like this one too.
All right, folks. Finally, let's spoil the plank with a great question from Shelby. Did Archie keynap the key? Let's stop on how good the phrase keynap is for gays. Or did it go willingly? Are they buddies now?
I think they're buddies. Also, I do want to give a quick shout out to Eric creating the idea of bulb napping instead of kidnapping in our world. And that was fantastic.
Very good.
Thanks. I thought it was a funny thing to say.
I'm as a player without knowing the answer, I am guessing that they went willingly, but it's definitely a who can say. We don't know yet.
Yeah. I'm not sure. All I do know is that we've played the next couple episodes and y'all don't even know what's about to hit. So stay tuned, keep those questions rolling in, and thank you for your support as always. All right, say goodbye, players.
Goodbye,
players.
players.
Bye, players.
May your rolls trend ever upward.
I'll sing you a song that all green folk know.
Until the waterfalls home.
That only began 50 years ago.
Until the waterfalls home.
We seek the deep lake and a wish-granting salmon.
Until the waterfalls home.
So hoist up the sails and load up the cannons.
Until the waterfalls home.
A rush on the tide, sail through the cascade, an adventure of ships, a ceaseless parade. I dream of roots buried in the deep alone, but we can't well sleep till the waterfalls home.
I don't know why I did a weird dance when we were like, yes, Cornichon.
We're no longer on camera, so you can be perceived
know.
however you like.
That's the Cornichon dance.
Okay, ready to keep going?
You can pickle if you want to. You can leave your dills behind.